The moment landed without warning, and that was why it hit so hard. During what appeared to be a routine exchange, Sam Heughan paused, chose his words carefully, and said, "We're not done." There was no dramatic build-up, no attempt to soften what followed. Seconds later, he confirmed what fans had feared but weren't prepared to hear: Season 8 was being delayed. The shift in tone was immediate, as if a room full of expectations had just lost its footing. For a series like Outlander, timing has always mattered. Season 8 had been framed, implicitly if not officially, as a culmination. Fans believed the path forward was clear, the schedule mapped, the ending in sight. That belief made Sam's confirmation feel less like a delay and more like a disruption of certainty. When a lead actor speaks this directly, it signals that the decision is already locked. What unsettled fans most was the phrase itself. "We're not done" didn't sound like reassurance alone. It carried resolve, but also resistance, as if something behind the scenes had forced a pause that wasn't optional. Sam didn't say, "soon," or "hopefully," and he didn't defer responsibility to schedules or logistics. He owned the message, and in doing so, he raised questions he didn't immediately answer. Almost instantly, speculation filled the gap. Was the delay about production hurdles, creative disagreements, or something deeper about how the story should end? Longtime viewers know the pressure attached to closing a series of this magnitude. Every choice becomes symbolic, every scene scrutinized for meaning and finality. Rushing that process would be easier, but easier wasn't the direction implied by Sam's words. The context made the confirmation even heavier. This wasn't an offhand remark taken out of context or a rumor filtered through press channels. It was a direct acknowledgement, delivered calmly, without apology. Sam's demeanor suggested that the decision had already been debated, weighed, and accepted internally. What fans were hearing was the result, not the discussion. Behind that calm delivery sat a complicated reality. Ending a long-running series isn't just about finishing scripts and setting shoot dates. It's about honoring years of character development, audience investment, and creative intent. The closer a show gets to its conclusion, the less room there is for compromise. A delay at this stage implies a willingness to absorb backlash rather than settle for something incomplete. Fan reaction unfolded in waves. Initial shock gave way to frustration, then to uneasy curiosity. Some worried the delay signaled trouble, while others sensed a protective instinct at work. The divide wasn't about whether the delay was real, but about what it meant. When expectations are interrupted without full explanation, imagination fills the silence. Sam did not rush to fill that silence. He didn't offer a timeline, and he didn't outline specific reasons. Instead, he repeated the idea embedded in his first statement, that the story wasn't finished in the way it needed to be. That restraint felt intentional, as if revealing too much too soon would undermine the very reason for delaying. What became clear was that this wasn't a scheduling accident. The phrasing suggested choice, not circumstance. Delays caused by external issues are usually framed defensively, with explanations meant to reassure. This sounded different. It sounded like a stand taken at the cost of convenience, and possibly popularity. For a series with a passionate fanbase, that's a risky move. Audiences don't just wait, they invest emotionally in timelines and endings. Changing those expectations invites disappointment, even when intentions are good. Sam's willingness to confirm the delay anyway suggested that pleasing fans in the short term was less important than protecting the story in the long term. As discussions intensified, one detail stood out. No one from the production rushed to contradict him. There were no immediate statements reframing the delay or downplaying its significance. The absence of correction reinforced the message. This was deliberate, unified, and final for now. By the end of the day, the narrative had shifted. Season 8 was no longer just delayed, it was recontextualized. Fans began asking not, "When will it arrive?" but, "What are they trying to get right?" That change in focus didn't erase disappointment, but it added weight to Sam's words. "We're not done" stopped sounding like a delay announcement. It started to sound like a promise made under pressure. A signal that the story mattered enough to slow down, even when slowing down came at a cost. And in that moment, the delay ceased to be the headline. The headline became the choice behind it. The meaning behind the delay became clearer as the initial shock settled. This was not a decision driven by chaos or indecision, but by control. Sam's words carried the weight of someone who understood exactly what postponement would cost in goodwill and patience. Choosing that cost anyway suggested a deeper conflict playing out beyond public view. Behind the scenes, discussions had reportedly reached a critical point. The question was no longer whether Season 8 could be finished on time, but whether it should be. Creative teams faced a dilemma familiar to long-running series: rush toward closure to meet expectations, or slow down to protect the integrity of the ending. Sam's confirmation implied that the latter had won. What made this delay different was who took responsibility for it. Instead of hiding behind production logistics or vague scheduling language, Sam stepped forward as the voice of the decision. That move reframed the delay as a creative stance rather than a technical problem. When an actor of his stature does that, it signals internal alignment, not disorder. Fans began to re-examine the phrase, "we're not done." It didn't just refer to unfinished episodes or pending scripts. It suggested unresolved questions, emotional arcs that hadn't reached the depth they deserved, and endings that needed space to breathe. In that light, the delay felt less like a pause and more like a safeguard. The pressure surrounding Season 8 was always going to be immense. Every choice would be judged not only on its own merits, but against years of investment from viewers. A rushed conclusion might satisfy a calendar, but it would leave a lasting scar on the legacy of the series. Delaying meant risking anger now to avoid regret later. Reaction within the fanbase began to shift subtly. Disappointment didn't disappear, but it softened into debate and reflection. Some fans admitted they would rather wait than watch a hurried ending undo what the story had built. Others remained skeptical, but even skepticism carried an undercurrent of respect for transparency. Industry voices quietly echoed the sentiment. Series that end too quickly often struggle to recover from that final impression. Creators know that endings define how stories are remembered far more than beginnings. The willingness to slow down at the final stretch signaled confidence in the material, not fear of it. Sam's continued restraint played a key role in shaping the narrative. He did not overpromise or tease hidden surprises. By avoiding specifics, he kept expectations realistic rather than inflated. That discipline suggested a focus on execution over excitement. What followed was a recalibration of patience. Fans stopped counting days and started watching for signals of progress instead. The conversation moved away from deadlines and toward intent. When trust replaces urgency, waiting becomes easier to accept. The delay also reframed Sam's relationship with the audience. Rather than positioning himself as a messenger delivering bad news, he appeared as a custodian of the story's final chapter. That shift mattered. It transformed frustration into cautious understanding. As weeks passed without further clarification, one truth remained steady. The decision had not been reversed or softened. Silence reinforced that this pause was intentional, not temporary indecision. Sometimes, commitment is shown not by constant updates, but by refusing to rush reassurance. Season 8, once seen as imminent, became something else entirely. It became a promise deferred, protected by time rather than threatened by it. That change altered how fans imagined its arrival. Instead of bracing for an ending, they began preparing for one that demanded patience. In the end, the delay reshaped expectations more than schedules. It reminded viewers that some stories deserve care even when the cost is waiting. Sam's confirmation did not close a door, it held one open, insisting that the final step forward would only happen when it was ready. "We're not done" no longer sounded like an explanation. It sounded like a boundary. And in setting that boundary, Sam signaled that the story's conclusion mattered enough to defend, even if defending it meant asking everyone to wait a little longer.